You've been building your weapons in Delta Force Warfare very wrong, and I'm here to show you how. Take a look at these clips and take note of the differences. The low recoil weapons like the M4A1, SMG45 and SG552 are pretty forgiving. You can get away with building them multiple different ways, but the high recoil and high fired weapons like the AS-VAL, MP7, AKM, PTR32, etc. are a lot less forgiving, and you have to build them a certain way for optimal use. If you want to get a great balance between recoil control and handling, you have to rethink the normal process of kitting out weapons. What's the normal process? There are three main stats to consider when building automatic weapons in Delta Force: control, handling, and stability. Range and muzzle velocity matter too, but those don't mean anything if your weapon is unwieldy. Accuracy is a measure of how precise your weapon is in hipfire, and that's really low on the priority list. Taking all this into account, the normal process has been to kit the gun out while prioritizing control and stability in that order, but not sacrificing too much handling, and that works fine for the low recoil, high stability weapons. This quickly falls apart though when you're building the higher recoil, lower stability weapons to be viable and compete with weapons like the SMG45. So how should you do it? To break it down as simply as possible, you should prioritize stability first, then control, and if you choose the right attachments with good calibration, the weapon will not only have less recoil and, just as importantly, firing camera stability, but it will also handle faster. Take the K416 for example. It's notoriously difficult to use beyond 30 meters because the recoil and camera shake send bullets flying everywhere. If you build it conventionally, control first, you end up with a weapon that has low recoil but the ADS time is so bad, you might as well send your bullets to the enemy via carrier pigeon. Here's how to build weapons into fast, accurate laser beams. Separate the front and back half of the weapon, then build the back for stability first, then the front for horizontal recoil control if the weapon has a lot of it. Here's an example using the beloved K416. Sending you over to live JK. Thank you, voiceover JK. The K416 recently got patched to reduce the camera shake when you fire, which is good. AS-VAL also received similar treatment, but we'll talk about that in a future video. Now, let's talk about this. This is the first instance of the K416. It has pretty good control, but it takes a huge hit in terms of handling, and the stability is actually not bad. The control values are great. Half the vertical recoil, a third of the horizontal recoil. Should be great, right? No. Really isn't. Really bad. ADS speed is horrible. This is twice the value you want. You would ideally want something around 300, 350, 400 milliseconds. This is 600. The sprint to fire is not great either. You'd want something around the 300 milliseconds or less value. It's just not looking great. The stability is actually not bad. The hit flinch multiplier is pretty good. The recoil reduction is not bad at all. So this is pretty usable, save for the handling speed, which makes it unfortunately a non-starter. As you can see, it's actually pretty good in the range. In game, not so much. The second instance that we're going to look at is a balanced build between control and handling. I fiddled around with the attachments and this was the best balance I could find. The control value is the same, but if you take a look at the specifics, it's not quite. It's slightly more than half the vertical recoil and slightly more horizontal recoil, but it's not bad either. The handling is better, down from 581. The sprint to fire is actually pretty good. It's below 300 milliseconds. It's what you'd want. The stability, however, is what you sacrifice this time. You barely get any recoil reduction. The hit flinch multiplier is worse, and the lens stability while firing is worse as well. It's far from ideal because it might look fine in the range. In match, it's not going to feel good when you're getting shot at and you're trying to shoot back at someone. The third build we're going to take a look at, however, is the best one I have found, and that's because it puts stability first. The control values do not look as good, but the handling is better than the other two builds, and the stability is just a bit better than the pure control build was. The values do not look convincing when you look at them. 0.79 times, 0.62 times. Not that great, right? But you look at the handling, it's the best that it has been. 388 milliseconds, 242 milliseconds, the best that there has been. The other one was 282 milliseconds. So, it's looking quite a bit better. Now, let's look at stability, and here's the biggest difference. You go from 0.95 times in the balanced build to 0.47 times, which is the minimum value that you can get for recoil reduction. You have 47 seconds to hold your breath. You can literally just press the button and forget about it if you have it on toggle, which I do. The hit flinch multiplier goes from 0.8x to 0.26, which is among the lowest. And the length stability goes from 1.02 in the balanced build to 0.4 times. So if we take a look at the range values, looking good. Even at long range, it's manageable. Doesn't have great damage values for it, but that's the best balance we found. It still has the fastest ADS, fastest sprint to fire, and seemingly the best balance between control and speed. Back to voiceover, JK. Right, as usual, I'll leave the build code in the description. Let me know how you like it. This method was the only way I found to make difficult weapons like the AKM and PTR-32 usable. With all that said, I hope I've shifted your perspective, shown you a different way to build weapons. A better way.